So, what I want to talk about today is, can you live a meaningful life? Can you see life as something that has purpose or meaning without the concept of like a higher purpose or a higher life beyond this life? A God. I think from seeing like people struggling, there's a lot of people that I can see, like social media and YouTube and that, like they're struggling with the existence, like their existence, wanting to exist, and I'll be talking about like, is it because of a lack of belief in a higher purpose or a life beyond this life, or in a God? Will that change this? I really started like thinking about that there might be something more. Like I saw some things that, logically and materially this should happen, this should be the outcome, but instead something totally weird and unexpected happened. What happened wasn't what I was expecting to happen. I thought logically this is the next step, this is what's going to happen, this is going to be the consequences, but then these unexpected and weird things were happening, and that's when I started questioning, like, is there more? And I'm not just talking about fortunate events. I'm not talking about, I got lucky one day and I found $50 when I needed it, or like, I'm not talking about I'm talking about fortunate and unfortunate. Even in the unfortunate things that happen, even in the bad things that happen, which when I look back, a lot of the times the bad things were actually good for me, because I was going in a wrong direction and I needed something to push me back on track, and those bad things did. So I look back and I see but even in the bad things, like, it happened in an unusual way, not a logical way. You see trouble and you run, but like you run and then you, like, it's weird. It's still like it's like it had to happen. So anyway, welcome to my channel where we talk about bikes and Bible verses. We're gonna have a Bible verse at the end as usual, so please stick around for that. So the first point I think that people really struggle with is that they think that God is real. It doesn't mean he can be real in your life. Like, I can relate to the feeling, I can relate to both sides of it. I grew up in a church my whole life and I was told to believe in God, and I did, but there was a portion of my life where even though I believed, but God wasn't real in my life. Like, I may as well have just been an atheist, because God wasn't real in my life. Even though I believed in God, but my actions and my decisions didn't really, my belief in God didn't really affect my actions and decisions. And the first thing that makes God real in your life is when you stop doing things that you typically would have done if you didn't have a commitment to God. Like, there's a lot of things that you could do, there's a lot of things you have an opportunity to do when opportunity arises, when no one can see. Behind closed doors, you'll never get caught. But if you decide and make the decision to not do those things because it's against God's will, like, that God doesn't want you to do that stuff, like, how can you expect God to be real in your life when you haven't actually taken any steps that kind of shows that God is real? For a lot of people, God is just this fantasy, supernatural being that gives you what you want. And back in the day, there was a lot of these atheist speakers who would kind of accuse Christians of that. And the thing is that they're actually right. For a lot of people who claim that they believe in God, God's not real in their life. And what these atheist thinkers used to say, their claim of God just being some fantasy thing that they believe in was right for a lot of people who claim to believe in God, because God wasn't real in their life. They had no experiences to base the realness of God. Their belief in God was just based on someone told them it was real, they believed, and that was it. One of the biggest defining moments in my life was that decision. The decision to stop, and I was young, so like mid to late teens. The decision to stop doing the things that God says was wrong. Things like simple things like swearing, smoking. I used to smoke in high school, not that much, like maybe a couple of cigarettes, 3-4 cigarettes a day. It's not like a pack a day smoker type thing. Hatred, lust, pornography, things like that. And I made the active decision to stop. And when I did, that's when like floodgates of God being real showed up. Seeing God's actions. So one thing to make God real in your life is to stop doing things that God doesn't approve of. But the second part is to actually also start doing things that show that God's real in your life. Start doing things that you typically wouldn't have done if it wasn't for this belief in, the life after this life, and the belief in God. And that's the part where you really see the purpose of life. And then when you start doing those things, that's when the purpose in life really kicks in. So what I mean by that, so in the previous point is when you stop doing things that God disapproves of, when you stop doing evil, you start to see the beauty of God's creation. Like back in the day when I was involved with sinful desires, like my eyes were closed to the beauty that's in this world, and that's because evil finds itself. But when I stopped those wrong things that I was doing, that's when my eyes were open to like the beauty. So you can simply enjoy life by seeing how beautiful it is. Whereas previously, when I was living in evils and my own desires, like the world was ugly to me. But you can go further than that, and you can see more when you start to do things because of understanding that there's a life after this life, because of understanding there's a God who's just and who can see right and wrong. When you dedicate your time to help others, maybe with issues that you've overcame, you can help others people to overcome, to be a positive mentor. Volunteering, volunteering isn't, for some people, volunteering is just like this 1 week thing. You tick the box, I've done that. But to me, a true volunteer is like a long term. Maybe once every week for years, maybe your whole life. Even making a commitment to want to know God. I think that's the start of it. Asking these questions, wanting to get an answer. Making commitment to read your Bible, to attend a good church where you're really learning. One example, like I started a soccer team, a men's soccer team, for some people who like newly migrated here to Australia. They love soccer, but they didn't have the language. They didn't have the feet on their ground to just go out and join other clubs. Like they just moved to Australia. And they couldn't just go in and join a club with some Aussies. Like a lot of them couldn't even really afford it. Like they didn't know the language. So I made a team, and everyone knew each other. Like mostly in the team was speaking in Arabic. So people, half of them didn't really know English. So that they felt comfortable, and they can really enjoy playing soccer and being part of a team. So, but what I want to say, like, was it hard? Yes, it was hard. Did I have to invest financially? Yes. Did I have to go out and convince other people to put money in, other organizations? Yes. Did we have problems? Yes. But the whole time was a blessing. It was like, those times just stay in my mind. Those times, those games, it was just amazing. It's the purpose in your life. A purpose is an understatement. It's these selfless things that you do in your life that brings enjoyment to other people's lives is what gives you purpose. And that's when you don't want things to end. At the beginning we're talking about people not wanting life to end, but when you go into these things, you don't want life to end. You want to have these things forever. So another point is, like we see online on YouTube, a lot of young people, especially in their 20s, they're seeing life as pointless, not going anywhere. But the main reason for that is that being in your 20s is a big transition. You got to make the decision for what you're going to do for the next 50 odd years of your life. So being a bit anxious in your 20s is normal. Being, have a lack of sense of direction is normal. Some paths, they don't work out, you have to restart, you're redoing things. Not knowing where you're going is normal. Steve Jobs, who revolutionized the world, he seemed to be doing random stuff in his 30s, in college. He dropped out of college. He was doing some random courses here and there, calligraphy, and it seemed like he didn't really know where he was going. But later he speaks of that, and he talks about how it was all kind of planned. It seemed like it was all planned, and all these random dots in his life were connected to go somewhere. How the calligraphy course, the random calligraphy course that he walked into, it gave him the appreciation and knowledge of fonts to critique, to know what he's talking about, and he used that concept through his creations. The Apple Mac, the concept of eye candy is still flowing, from back then until today in Apple products. Other competitors, they didn't have that eye candy mentality in computing back then. Computing for them was boring and nerdy, and it was just about crunching numbers and things like that. And it took a couple of decades for the competitors to catch up with this eye candy concept in computing. So I think there is a purpose, but at the same time, you need to be careful not to sabotage your purpose, not to sabotage your blessings, willfully doing the things that are wrong. Engaging in stuff. Maybe some people are lost because they are derailing their life. Toxic, harmful things, laziness, indifference. Just because there is a purpose, it doesn't mean it has to happen. People can go out and destroy it because of their lack of knowledge, a lack of knowledge of what's right. And you know what's right when you know the creator, when you know the person of the purpose. Back in my day, it was the smartest people telling everyone that there's just flesh, there's nothing after that. But now a lot of smart people are doing a backflip on that. They can see the destruction that it's doing. Young people feeling lost, nothing to hope for if there's not a greater purpose. If I didn't believe in a God or in a higher purpose, I'd probably be just as lost as many people are today. So I just want to read a Bible verse here, and that's from John chapter 10 verse 10. It says, "The thief comes only to steal, kill and destroy. I came that you may have life and have it abundantly." We can't waste the life that we've been given. Jesus talks about the thief comes to steal, kill and destroy. The devil, Satan, comes in our life to destroy it. So but it's in our hands. We can make that choice, making a commitment to God's desires. That's what gave me life. So anyway, that's all I've got. If you like this video, please hit the like button. I've got 2 playlists in my channel. One is for motorcycle related stuff, and the other one is like life and godliness, which is in here. Please, if you're interested in that stuff, you can subscribe to that playlist. If you like my content in general, subscribe. And if you are riding a motorcycle, take it easy and ride safe.